Hey, can I call you back? I'm recording a video. Today, we're going to turn a boring subject, like an old rusty typewriter, into some interesting photographs. I'll show you how to do it, talk about the gear I used, and give you some tips that you can use in your next shot. Taking it to the top.
Taking it to the top. Taking it to the top.
So let's talk about how I got those shots. I used the following lenses on my Canon 80D. The Sigma 18-35mm, the Canon EFS 55-250mm lens, the Canon EFS 24mm pancake lens, and the Nifty 50, the EF 50mm. I used a variety of lenses because I wanted to show you guys that it doesn't matter if you have an expensive lens or a cheap pancake lens, you can still get great quality images. All of these lenses worked pretty well. The EFS 55-250mm was the most difficult to use, and it's because it has a minimum focusing distance of 3.6 feet or 1.1 meters, and I could never get as close to the subject as I wanted to. However, that lens produced the sharpest images and also had the least amount of distortion. The Sigma 18-35mm produced the most keepers. The typewriter itself is a boring subject to photograph, and I think it's because on the surface it's just not very interesting. You would walk by it and not give it a second thought. But add some directional lighting, get your camera close, and you can bring out some interesting details. Here are my top 5 tips for turning a boring subject into interesting photographs. Number 1, use directional lighting. It's all about the lighting, right? I mean, that's what your camera's doing. It's recording the light that's bouncing off your subject back to the camera sensor. And lighting can be used to isolate your subject or to set the mood and control your exposure for the image. You can also use a faster shutter speed to control the ambient lighting. Number 2, get close-up shots. Close-ups are a great way to add more details to your image and make them more interesting. They work because most people don't take the time to stop and look at the details. The rust, the dirt, and other imperfections give your subject character, but be careful of shallow depth of field, because the closer you get your camera to the subject, the shallower that depth of field is going to become. Number 3, creative framing and composition. Get creative with your angles to create a unique perspective. Shoot low, looking up. Twist the camera to get the focused section in the rule of thirds. And you can also use blurred out background objects as leading lines, like I did with the typewriter keys. Number 4, tell a story. This is something that I didn't do today, but you can do in your next shot. You can add yourself to the scene, add a glass of wine, maybe a candle as props, and tell the story of a novelist or a writer. Or you could crunch up like some paper and put it around the typewriter and then have this frustrated look on your face and convey a message of writer's block. Number 5, most importantly, be present when you're shooting. Don't let the thoughts of the future or the past take away from the experience you're having right then. Be present. And I'll give you an example. A couple of months ago, it was a nice, beautiful spring morning, and I decided I was going to do some macro photography. And so I got to the location and I had my gear all set up, and all I could think about in my head was uploading the photos to Instagram. The end of the process. I wasn't present. And I was going around, I got to find an insect to shoot so I can get these uploaded to Instagram. I have to hurry and find where I need to find something, got to find something. And of course, I came home frustrated with not one image, nothing. And I was so frustrated. Me being the person that I am and dedicated and going to make it happen one way or another, I went back the next day and I was just frustrated. I was no longer thinking about what I was going to do with the images when I got them, or Instagram or YouTube or anything. And I was just sitting there frustrated. And all of a sudden, this wasp came up and flew and sat down right next to me, and I started taking pictures of it. Some of the best macro shots I ever got. And then I saw a flower. The thing is that life itself is a succession of moments that are unfolding right now in this moment. The second it's unfolding, just like the conversation we're having. And if in your mind you're somewhere else, then you're not being present. Being present means that you're in the moment mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And if you're present, then life is going to give you what you want. Just make sure that you are present when you're taking your photographs, and I promise you it'll make a huge difference. Well, that's the end of today's video. If you like today's show, consider smashing that like and subscribe button. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll answer you. You can also catch me on Instagram here. I'll post some photos from today's video. Until next time, I am Todd Norris. Peace out.